Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Christy and I am a second year PhD student studying English literature at the University of Westminster, and today I am sharing my first ever entry for my dissertation diaries. So this is actually meant to be a vlog because I went to Oxford last month to do a informal write-in sort of meetup group with accepted society members, which was absolutely lovely. But I had wanted to vlog the whole, I was there for maybe 4 or 5 days, something like that. And so I wanted to really make a nice vlog and kind of memorialize my time there. But life happened and that didn't end up happening. So I'm going to insert some small clips that I took. It was the week leading into Easter weekend because for the Friday and Saturday that I was there, the libraries were closed. If you don't know, I am not, as I said, I study at the University of Westminster. I am not an Oxford University student, but you can get a reader's library if you are at any other institution within the UK. You can also apply for it if you're an independent scholar. I think if you're an independent scholar, you have to pay for it, but I'm not 100% sure about that, so don't quote me on it. But essentially, you just need to show that you actually do need to use the resources of these libraries and do an application form like maybe a week or so prior to when you actually want to use the space, and then you have the ability to use the libraries. There are some restrictions in terms of certain libraries, and also during term times, especially during like exam periods and stuff, then visiting scholars, there's a lot more limitations to your access versus during vacation, holiday terms, etc. I absolutely love the fact that I have a library card. Like, what a library card to have as well. Being in the Rad Cam in particular, it's just there is something to be said about the environment in which you are working, and it is such a motivational and inspirational and beautiful space to be working in. I'm always within company when I'm there because I'm typically, like, the last time I was there, or the first time I ever went as well, was last October when I went for another in-person meetup with Accepted Society, which was my first one, and that was such a wonderful experience. And so coming back into this space just felt, yeah, absolutely lovely. So I got there on the early afternoon of a Wednesday, had a lovely journey down. I took the train. I split up my journey over 2 days, so I went to Edinburgh first, and then I went from Edinburgh to Oxford and met up with Jen from Accepted Society when I was changing over trains. So we got to chat for a bit of the journey, and then for the rest of the journey, actually, 2 people were sat at my table, and I'm a very introverted person. I don't tend to strike up conversations with people, especially on a train situation. I'm normally like, please leave me alone, I'm trying to do work or I'm trying to read. And both the person in front of me and the person next to me, they were reading books, and I was like, this is perfect, this is exactly the vibe that I want on a train, and when I'm doing my work. And the person in front of me actually commented on my jumper because it's my book, cardigan. And we got to talking, and she was saying how she was a librarian, and I was talking about my PhD and my research, and she was so incredibly lovely and sweet. And then the younger individual who was next to me, she came into the conversation at one point, and she was telling us how she was taking a gap year before going into her undergrad, which she was already accepted at the university, and she's going to be studying applied psychology. And that was obviously, I did applied psychology, also known as clinical psychology, during my undergrad. So I have 2 undergraduate degrees, one in psychology and one in English literature. And so we were talking about that as well. It was just such a lovely conversation. Like I said, it's so unusual for me to do that. And we ended up talking for a good hour and a half without break. So it was just so lovely, and I really enjoyed that conversation. And yeah, it was just a really great way to kind of start off that week and heading into Oxford. And then I got into Oxford and I got into my accommodation, and things kind of went south from there because unfortunately my husband gave me a call saying that our landlord for this lovely home here that we live in and that we absolutely adore was serving us an eviction notice because she was going through a divorce, and she needed to live in the space. And so we were given less than 3 months to find somewhere new to live. And that, when it took us 2.5 years to find this space, it was shocking. I was wearing my Apple Watch and my heart rate actually went from like its baseline to nearly 200, and I was sat down. So it was definitely, I felt like I was passing out, and I was probably close to passing out. It was such a huge shock. We were not expecting it in the least. And like I say, I absolutely love this home. This is the first place that has properly felt like home. The community here has been amazing, and they've been supportive. So many people were knocking at the door apparently, and asking my husband how they could help and such, after we had posted on a community board being like, please let us know if you have any spaces opening up. And it was just, it felt like the ground had been ripped out from underneath me. And then I was also feeling very frustrated because now I'm thinking, well, now my entire week is ruined, and how am I supposed to focus on work when I know this thing is happening? I have a lot of anxiety. And I was already feeling quite anxious in terms of my social anxiety, although again, being able to chat with Jen and then the folk on the train like was helping to alleviate some of that. But then I was also thinking, well, now I'm going to be in a bad mood, and people aren't going to want to be around me because I'm going to bring the mood down, etc. There's all these things that were going through my head, but mostly in the moment I was just panicking because we were going to lose our home, and I love this home so much. And it was really difficult to cope with. I don't cope with things very well to begin with, but in that moment my first gut reaction was actually messaging Jen, who I know I was going to be meeting up with anyways. We were just like dropping off our bags, and then we were going to head to the library, and I just said to her, like, I need support and I need it now. Can, like, I talk to you? And so she was absolutely lovely. She's like, yes, do you want me to come to you, or do you want to meet me? And I was like, no, I need to be out of this tiny room. So I went in very much a haze, tears streaming down my face, and just with the intention of, I just need to get to this point. Like, we were meeting at Gale's, and I was like, I just need to get there. I just need to get there, and then I can collapse. Like, that was all that was going through my head. And so I got there, and I did collapse into tears. And I'm so sorry, Jen. I genuinely, people do not see me in that kind of an emotional distress, other than maybe my husband. And so I just really appreciated that she was willing to accept me in that moment, and also support and comfort me. And I'm so glad that in hindsight it happened the way that it did, because there was all of this support around me. Whereas if I was in this house by myself, and I don't have anybody who is, other than family, and that's my husband's family, who is like within any kind of close proximity. So it was really actually the best way that things could have unfolded, in terms of having that actual like physical in-person support from folk. And I had also messaged Kaylin and Kate at the same time, although they were taking a nap. So as soon as Kaylin woke up, she came over and joined us as well, which I was much more stable by then and not as ugly crying as I initially was, and was able to kind of try and be like, okay, well, let's go to the library and try and like maybe that'll focus me. So I went to the library with Jen, and we did a bit of work. I have to admit, I didn't do much work that day. I had said, okay, I'll go to the library because I can't cry in a library, because like, you don't want to be that person, right? But then also, if you do cry in the library, people are just like, oh, you're just having a bad like academic experience today. But I was very sniffly, and in the end I was like, I'm not getting any work done. So when Jen left to go to the gym, I was like, right, I'm gonna just head back to my accommodation and probably have a panic attack. But I mean, I kind of did, to be perfectly honest. But Kate then woke up from her nap, and then she was willing to meet me, and give me many hugs, which I'm very appreciative of. And yeah, we then went to the Old Budlin library to do a bit of work, and there I actually got some work done, which I am super, super happy about. I think I got like 250 words done that day, which was absolutely fantastic, and I'm really proud of myself for that. I also will say that Kate picked a absolutely spectacular seat within the Old Budlin. I will try to find, if I can figure out how to like insert a photo, I will, because it's one of my favorite photos now that I've taken in Oxford, because it's the Rad Cam, but it's like through the windows, and the windows of the Old Budlin are absolutely stunning, and it's just like it was it was really grounding to have that moment in that library without a lot of pressure, and it was just, you know, one other person, Kate, being on the other side of me, and we were like, I was giving her the sea glass charms that I made for her Paper Republic journal, and having that like kind of nice social excitement and connection, and that was really lovely and something that I definitely needed, because it did feel like during that day, looking back on it now, I wasn't ever alone for very long. And that really made, I'm gonna get a little bit emotional. It really made a huge difference, because I think actually that the reason why I was able to handle things in a much better way than I've probably ever handled things was because I had that continuous support. And even if maybe I wasn't, you know, giving much into the social situations I was in, I was still like, I was just there with other people, and that made such a huge difference. So after the Old Budlin and getting some words on the page, I think that that was the day that I managed to complete a outline as to what exactly I wanted to do in relation to the thesis, or it may have been the messy writing day. I can't remember, but I did do words. So that was a good day. And then we went and got I got some chips and a lemonade from, I think it's called Shake and Shack or something, because Kaylee and Kate were getting milkshakes and stuff, and I was like, yeah, I probably could use some carbs in my body, so I'm gonna have some chips. And that was really lovely. Again, just being able to be around people, especially later in the evening. And then I think I went to the wine bar. I actually met up with Jen again, and we just enjoyed a glass of, well, she had a wine, I had a whiskey. I was like, I need a whiskey. And they have my favorite whiskey there, which is Open 14. So I was like, right, we are going to go and enjoy a dram. So that is what we did. And again, so it's just like those pockets of moments where I'm not actually spending a lot of time by myself, and I'm with somebody else, and being able to have, especially on that day, it was a lot of kind of smaller interactions with smaller groups of people, which I tend to work a lot better in, compared to bigger groups, which I can feel a little bit overwhelmed, and my anxiety can get the better of me a lot of times in those situations. So that was really, honestly, just the best day that I could have had under the circumstances that I was under. And I'm really, really grateful for everybody who supported me and showed up for me, because, yeah, friendships are a difficult thing for me. So I really appreciate that if you're watching. And yeah, the dram was absolutely fantastic. I love the wine bar in Oxford. I was probably there, I think, almost every single night. Like, not like, you know, I'm not getting smashed or anything. I'm just having a dram or a wine or something. But they just have such a wonderful selection, and the vibe is fantastic. So yeah, after that, then I went to my accommodation. I was very tired at that point, because again, I had been traveling since very early in the morning, and so I thought that I would have a lot of difficulty sleeping, but I got into the accommodation, had a big old cry fest and panic attack, and basically exhausted myself quite quickly from the intensity of my crying, and did a bit of scrolling, and then just fell asleep, because I was like, I was done. And then the next day, on Thursday, that was our like big library day, and that was the day that I told myself, right, we're compartmentalizing what we are going through, because this is the day that I'm here for. Like, this is the full day where I can be in the library, because on the Friday it was going to be closed because of Easter weekend. Same with Saturday. So Thursday was the only day that I had all day to do my work in the library. So I went, I think, with Jen early in the morning to get coffee and some breakfast, and then we headed over to the Rad Cam for 9 a.m. to get in line. We basically got there like as soon as it had opened. So, and then Kaylin and Kate came running as well so we could get good seats within the Rad Cam, and we just locked in for the day. So like I say, we got there at 9 a.m. and I left at 5:30 p.m. But I will say, like, this was not a period in which we were locked in and solidly working that entire time. You know, we took a break for lunch. Kaylin and I went to Gulp Fiction, and I was very good and I didn't buy anything, but it was nice to just be in a bookshop and be browsing, and again to be with somebody, and we had a nice conversation over lunch as well before going back to the Rad Camp doing more work. A lot of us went to go and get coffee at one point as well and just have a bit of conversation before again going back to work. So there were breaks within that and we were taking care of ourselves, and that is the way that you should be studying. You shouldn't be in a library from 9 to 5:30 without any breaks or any kind of food and like hydration. I even got a cup of tea originally as well, just because again I drink a lot of coffee, and I think I scared some folk in Accepted because I genuinely can drink like 10 espressos in a day, and I pretty much was doing like 9 to 10 espressos a day when I was there, because especially when I'm not here in my home and like making my own coffee, I find coffee really weak where I go elsewhere. Normally I'm a lot more tired because of traveling, etc. So yeah, I like my coffee. I need my coffee, but I was also very aware that I needed to make sure that I was hydrating, especially because I was crying and I was like, I need to not be losing all, you know, the water in my body. So yes, we had a really, really good session that day. I think I wrote like 500 words for my thesis on that day. Maybe, actually no, I think I wrote more than that, but it was my first gold star day, and it was just such a lovely, lovely day. I felt so motivated. I felt so grateful to be in that space. I mean, there's something about being in the Rad Cam that, you know, I was just sitting there at one point and thinking to myself, I never thought I would have the opportunity to exist within this space. And like I say, I know I'm not an Oxford student, but just being in that space. And honestly, I feel a lot of belonging when I'm in Oxford. And I know that that can be a different experience for a lot of people, but it's just the idea of being in this space and everybody around you is doing their research and focused on learning and knowledge, and this is, you know, driven by passion and a desire to learn and to hopefully make change through that knowledge. And I mean, obviously I'm looking at that from a very romanticized, like, humanities point of view, but yeah, it was just such a lovely, lovely time. And obviously being with all the Accepted folk who are also doing their work, it really makes the experience of doing a PhD, which can be very lonely and isolating, into something very joyful and connecting, and that is rooted within community, which I think is what Accepted really brings to the forefront in relation to the academic experience. So I am extremely grateful for that. And I will say, I have this like Accepted merch that just came out this spring, and it arrived to my house on the morning that I left, and I had already left early in the morning. So unfortunately I wasn't able to wear it, because like my idea for this shirt was like, oh, I'll be able to pair it with my brown skirt that I have, which I absolutely adore. And it does the formatting. There's this, but there's also, I don't know, can I show this? I don't know if it'll show up on camera. But there's also the back, and so it does suit the look that I have really well, because the skirt, like, I wear it quite high-waisted. Well, I wear it very high-waisted because I'm very short. So yeah, anyways, I absolutely adore this. This is engraved, whereas the back is like a printed, whatever. And it's fits me perfectly, I will say, because I knew that this was a unisex size for a t-shirt and I wanted to wear it more form-fitting, that I sized down rather than sizing up. I do want to get another one at some point to have slightly oversized for more just like comfort and working, but I like this one to be able to wear out, and I absolutely adore it. And then I also got, which again, slightly disappointing that I didn't have this for when I was in Oxford, but I also got the Accepted Society tote bag, which is in this like, it's not tartan, but like plaid material, and I think it's polyester, I'm not 100% sure, but I actually think that this is quite a good material for in the rain. Like the rain won't soak it as much. Like my favorite tote bag, I have to admit, is my Daunt Books tote bag. Like they have mastered the tote bag to an utter perfection, and the reason why so many people have it is because it is literally the perfect tote bag. But I really love this, and I love this for like, yeah, I'm gonna definitely have this for when I'm in Oxford in August for the Accepted Society write-in, as well as the symposium, which I'm super, super excited about. Anyways, I've totally gone on a tangent here, but yes, at 5:30 we finished up our work at the Rad Cam, and I asked folk if they wanted to join me at Yori, which is an amazing Korean restaurant in Oxford. They make the most delicious rosé tteokbokki. I had been thinking about it since October, and I was like, I don't care if nobody wants to come with me, I will go by myself. But I'd asked folk if they wanted to join, and ended up everybody joining us. So booked a table for, I think it was like 11, 12, something like that of us. And that was such a lovely dinner. It also really reminded me of during my undergrad years. I was definitely a host. Although I'm very introverted, I really like hosting and planning and organizing things for folks. So being able to bring everybody together for that dinner was really fun, and I was really quite proud of myself for doing that. And it was just such a lovely environment. Everybody was very high energy and enthusiastic. Well, high energy except for maybe I'll insert the clip, but Kaylin had, unlike me who can handle the caffeine, 10 shots of espresso, Kaylin can't have too much caffeine. Doesn't settle well with her, and she had a little bit too much matcha. She was definitely struggling. So, yeah, it was a really, really fun evening, and it was just a really lovely time, and the food was obviously incredible. So highly, highly recommend if you're in Oxford. Yori is the place that I always go to. I also discovered a new one. I think it's called Pasta Evangelist, if I'm remembering that title correctly. I just got it from Deliveroo or whatever app on like one of the latter days. I think it was the Friday evening. And oh my gosh, I had a truffle pasta and a pistachio cake. Delicious. I am still thinking about that. I was like, Oxford, Yori, and Pasta Evangelist. That's all I want. The food was so good. I got a group of us again together to go to the wine bar once again, and we created a little like social circle, just sat around. It was very like, it made me laugh. Like we're just in this corner by ourselves, like in this big circle, and it was such a lovely, lovely time. I tried orange wine for the first time, which anybody who's there is probably gonna laugh at this, but I still don't know how I feel about it. It wasn't unpleasant. It was very grapefruity, but I don't like grapefruit. But I didn't dislike it, but it was quite bitter. And I would have it again, but I don't know that I would ever choose to have it again. Because I can't see myself choosing that over, like, if I'm a red wine girl, and so if I choose something chill, like if I want something chilled, then I'll have white or I'll have rosé, but I wouldn't see why I would pick an orange wine. And I also don't see what orange wine would pair well with, because I like pairing my wines with what I'm eating as well. So anyways, I digress. I don't know how I feel about it, but also I feel like maybe I need to try another kind, because I think the grapefruity aspect was probably very particular to that specific one that I had. But anyways, it was still nice, and I'm glad that I tried it. And then on the Friday, as I mentioned, the libraries were closed, so we all were meeting up at Blackwell's to do some writing in the cafe area that they have upstairs. However, I went and took some time for myself because, again, Thursday I'd been very social. Obviously, there was a lot going on emotionally for me, and I needed to just take some time to myself. So I had my coffee and my breakfast at Gales and wrote in my morning pages. It was also really lovely because that was the day that I was starting a fresh new journal, and it did feel really nice to be doing that within that space again. I had gone to Scriptum actually the day before on the Thursday during one of the breaks to pick up a notebook. I will show that, and I have all of my journals for my morning pages and kind of journaling in my Louise Carmen. I don't know if I've actually mentioned this on this channel before, but she's a few months old now. This is the Honoraire in red, and I don't love this as much as I love my Paper Republic leather journals because I just think those are superior quality, but I really do love this as well, and I literally use this every single day. The patina is developing beautifully, and yes, so I got a new notebook for in here after my last one I filled up, and it was probably the first time I've ever actually filled a notebook, like from cover to back. So it was really exciting to be able to purchase a new one. I will say that there was a lot of journals there that, like, there was a point where I thought I'm not actually going to be able to find anything within the budget that I set because everything was quite expensive. A lot of them were also leather or hardback, and one, I don't like having a hardback in these kind of refillable journals, especially the Louise Carmen, because it like shows the kind of molding to the journals a little bit more, and I didn't really want to have anything obviously leather inside leather. It just felt a bit weird. So anyways, I got lucky and I found a stack of these beautiful notebooks upstairs at Scriptum, and this was the last one in this particular pattern, and I just thought that it fit the vibe of the journal so well. And I knew that I wanted something, like I said, soft cover. I also knew I wanted something quite thick because they do fill up really quick. And this is lovely because it's got the, I don't know how to make my camera focus, so like gold gilded edges. Anyways, I think she's stunning, and I am really happy with the fact that I found that, and every time I open it now I'm just like reminded of the fact that, like, oh yeah, I got this when I was in Oxford. So that's really nice, and like I say, they fill up quite quick. I'm on week 9 of the Artist Way, so I haven't even, I've had to get a new notebook before even finishing the first 12 weeks, although I have adjusted it because in the Artist Way it's supposed to be, your morning pages, 3 pages every morning before you do literally anything else. If I am getting to these at a later point in the day, I still do them. I think that's what matters the most. And also I set a timer now for 20 minutes rather than aiming for 3 pages, because I just found that I was getting a lot of anxiety around how much time I was spending trying to get those 3 pages. And the first like page and a half to 2 pages come fairly quickly. Like, that's how much I tend to do 2 pages within 20 minutes. But for some reason that last page was just felt like a chore. So I've adjusted it to fit my own needs, and I'm happy with that. It took some time for me to feel like I was able to do that, because I was like, no, but if I'm not doing it the exact way that this person is saying to do it, it's like, when have I ever done anything in a traditional way? Never. So I was like, do what works for you. And that was so needed. I cannot tell you. The morning pages are something that I am so grateful for, that has become a habit for me, because they truly are helping me with, just kind of reflecting on my own emotions and being able to kind of name them and work through them. And so the morning pages were definitely a lifeline for me during my time at Oxford. After I had finished that, then I went to Blackwell's and we did some writing there. I was very happy that I managed to get words done within the span of time that I was there for, because obviously I had joined slightly later than other folk. And then when we decided we were done around, I don't know, sometime in the early afternoon, getting towards lunchtime, we had a bit of a browsing point, because you have to browse, of course, when you're in Blackwell's, and I went to the poetry section. I did pick up 2 books, and I will show them for you just now. So the first is one that I have actually already read, and that is Averno by Louise Gluck, and this is a reworking of the Persephone myth, and this is a narrative poetry collection, so it's telling a story throughout the entire collection itself. These poems are beautiful. There's big ecofeminist vibes within here, and I just adored this. I gave this 5 stars. I've never read anything by Louise Gluck before, but she has won a Nobel Prize, and so I knew that going into this was going to probably be something very good, but I'm always skeptical about poetry because I'm very picky with my poetry. But I can highly, highly recommend this. This was fantastic. And then I picked up Phantom Pain Wings by Kim Hae-Yusun, and this is translated from the Korean. And I know nothing about this poet, I know nothing about this collection, but I love the style of these editions of books and how they have like the first X amount of words on the front cover. That is what pulled me in, was by reading this, and then when I turned to look at the blurbs on the back, it said haunted and grotesque, and I was like, you know what, we're going for it. Normally I read quite a few poems from a collection before I purchase it because, again, picky with the poetry, and this, I just was like, you know what, we're going for it. I think I read the first poem when I was in there, but also reading like the titles and the blurbs and such, I was like, this is absolutely up my street. I know this is going to be 5 stars. I'm so excited to dive into this. It's a lot surrounding body horror and metamorphosis, and yeah, I'm really, really excited about that, like hauntings and trauma and memories. Right up my street. The Eviction one I wanted to read in one sitting, and I do recommend that you do this. I read this on the train from Edinburgh to Inverness. This is meant to be read in one go, and it's very short, so you can do that. Whereas this, I'm going to be diving into across probably, you know, several weeks. Maybe not. It depends. When I really love poetry collections, I do tend to read quite a few back to back, but I like dipping in and out of these bigger poetry collections because also it just makes them last longer. So it's the idea of reading a couple poems before bed. Tends to be how I consume poetry in a more larger collection. After purchasing the books at Blackwell, basically the rest of the day was a lot more social and just having conversations with folk and not really focused too much on the work, especially because then we were getting after lunch, you know, into the later afternoon, and people were tired and kind of going off into our own little groups and such. And so yeah, it was really nice. And then Saturday, like I said, that was the day that I was leaving, so got my train back to Edinburgh, and that was basically my time in Oxford. I didn't do any work on the train, which was a little bit disappointing. I had thought that I would definitely be able to get some work done, especially from Oxford to Edinburgh, because that's the longest portion of the journey, but the trains were so busy and I was just really tired. I was also feeling a lot of anxiety around going back to the Highlands and being home and like having to deal with this uncertainty and fear of having to leave this place that I love so much. Good news in all of this, I didn't intentionally save this to the end of the video, but the good news is that actually our landlord contacted us just over a week later after that initial notice of eviction to say that we don't have to move, we can stay where we are, and she's very sorry for all the stress that she has put us under, but she actually was able to find a place to rent for herself. You know, divorce is a really difficult thing, so I had a lot of empathy, and I was writing a lot about that in my morning pages for her throughout the experience. The good news is we don't have to move, we can stay here, and I'm so grateful for that because I love this community. I love the home that we're in, and it's the first place that has properly felt like home and felt like I belong, and I don't want to leave. So I'm so grateful that I don't have to, and I'm so grateful for everybody who is at the meetup in Oxford from Accepted, who just absolutely showered me with support and love and friendship, and really helped remind me that like I can build friendships. I have a lot of difficulty with friendships, and there's been a lot of things in my past that have made me a lot more cautious and anxious about making friends, and so it was just a really good experience. And also I started my thesis chapter. Like, I have words on the page, we're in the active writing mode. You know, I'm trying to embrace this as joyfully as I possibly can because I have waited for so long to be in this moment, and I have you know, this is a dream come true, and I'm trying to remind myself of that fact. Like, yes, there's stress, yes, there's anxiety, all of these things can be true and be held, but you can also be really joyful and excited and enthusiastic about being a PhD student, and about, like, I always try to frame it in my head of, I don't have to do this thing, I get to do this thing. What an incredible privilege to be in this position and to be doing what I'm doing. And that just really, again, just came back to me and was very motivational during my time in Oxford, of like how lucky I am to be in this position. And yes, things can happen and life can be really freaking hard, but I'm trying to focus on the things that I can control and the joy that I know is there, and to amplify that more than amplifying any anxiety. And that's a lot easier said than done, obviously, but being in Oxford is just such a motivational and inspirational place to be in. And that is more than just the buildings and you know, the location and the history and the connections that obviously we have to Oxford and intellect and knowledge and academia, etc. But really that stems from being there and being supported and in community with the other folk at Accepted Society. Like, that is what makes those trips so special to me. It would not feel the same if I was just alone in those. Like, it would still be motivational, inspirational, absolutely, but it wouldn't be that connecting experience. An uplifting experience, I think, that it does become when I'm there with the other folk from Accepted Society. So if you don't know anything about Accepted, this is not like sponsored or anything, by the way, I'm very obviously passionate about the platform. If you don't know anything about it, it is a social platform network for anybody in academia, no matter what stage of your journey. If you are a undergrad, postgrad, doctorate student, there are professors, there's independent researchers, there's folk who are looking to, you know, go into community college, etc. if you're in the States. So it's really for everybody. And if you're interested, I will leave a link in the description box below. And if you're from Accepted, hi. Thank you for existing. I love you all so much, and thanks for watching. The next time that I do these dissertation diary updates, I hope to do them in a more traditional, although I say I never do anything traditional, I hope to do them in a more kind of general idea of like the vlogging format, because that's what I had initially wanted to do, like I said, for this, but it was just a little bit too much under the circumstances. I'm surprised that I even got any small clips at all with everything going on. But the next time I have a conference in June that I'll be attending, so I'll take you along for that, and that will probably be my first like proper fun vlog, and I will obviously take you to Oxford in August as well. But I am going to try to do some more just chatty vlogs from, you know, my home study as I'm progressing through this PhD journey, which can be very terrifying at times, but also I'm excited to see where I'm at in a few months' time. So yes, thank you all so much for joining, and I'll see you next time. Bye!